Hey Selena, and anyone else that might be watching this is we're back for another of my video recipe book that I'm just starting to compile for you. So today we're going to do chicken stock, and the main reason we're doing chicken stock is to get to chicken piccata. But I will have to say that once I started making my own stock, then sauces and everything that come from stock, it just makes everything that much better. And it is fairly easy and straightforward. So the key piece around the chicken stock here is piecing up the chicken. And I'm going to basically debone the chicken so we can use the breasts and thighs for other meals, and then all the bones and scraps will go in for the stock. So that's the plan. And the other big piece is I'm using an Instant Pot here. There's a couple reasons that we wanted an Instant Pot in Austria. Is, let me flip the camera around. I'm just gonna, as you can see here, this is not a large kitchen setup here, so not a ton of space. And the Instant Pot doubles as not only a pressure cooker, but a rice cooker and a slow cooker. And it doesn't need to be on, like, use countertop space up. So I have it here for the purposes of just being close of where I can set a camera. But I mean, this could basically be sitting in the living room if you want. The only difference between using the Instant Pot, whoops, I did the wrong thing. Using the Instant Pot and using a normal pressure cooker is the Instant Pot is more just kind of like set it and forget it. And you just put it on this timer and away it goes, and it's kind of handles things itself. Normal pressure cooker, you just have to pay attention to when pressure hits and the timing of it, and then you just turn off the stove after it's done. So pretty straightforward. If you don't have either of those, you can just throw the stock on low and slow on the stove for like 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. But using the pressure cooker brings that time down to 45-ish minutes, let's say an hour, when once the pressure releases and stuff. So a little bit of just, I'll switch the camera over. I'm trying to do this almost in one take here, and I just have to see how this is going to look the other way. Yeah, we'll go there. So here's our mise en place. Celery, carrots, onions, some garlic. I've got some parsley. I've got some rosemary. I normally use thyme for chicken stock. They just didn't have it at the fresh thyme. They didn't have it at the grocery store. You can use some dried, but sparingly. I've got some garlic and some peppercorns. So this stuff just needs to be rough chopped. It does not need to be diced. It doesn't need to be fancy. Everything. The vegetables don't even need to be peeled. I peeled the carrots because they were kind of looking a little bit long in the tooth there, and so just for aesthetic purposes for our video, so I'm rough chopping these. I'll rough chop everything else we've got here, and the only kind of thing, you don't need it in a fine dice, but I like to have it at least chopped up, just because the more surface area is the more hopefully flavor extraction you're going to get out of it in this short time for cooking. So there, that piece is done. All of this is just going to go straight into the Instant Pot here. So boom, boom. There, this is easier. Same with parsley, rosemary. And I'm doing this roughly for, the one kind of scraps and bones from one whole chicken. So I'll go my aromatics and stuff in there, and then back in. And then chicken, and all I've done to this to prep this is I just took the giblets out, which giblets are like the liver and the gizzard and heart and neck. And most times the US does not even, just making sure this is still going, yep. Most times the US doesn't even have giblets anymore, giblets. So basically what we want to do is get this, all the bones out and all the pieces that we want to use for other meals, which is really just breast and then the debone thigh leg. And all I've done is rinse this quick and then dry it off with paper towels. I usually stuff the paper towels after I dry into the cavity, just because it's a little more, the water kind of holds in there. So first step, I'm going to pop these sockets, the leg sockets, kind of dislocate those back, so now the chicken lies a little bit more flat. Our first two cuts, we're going to cut that skin away on either side, and I'm going to flip over. There's this little bulge, that's the oyster of the chicken, which is the most tender part of the chicken, the darkest meat. And then I'm just going to slice down in between that thigh and take the legs off as such. So dislocating that joint means that your knife can find the joint easier. I'm using a boning knife here. That's probably the best thing to use, is some kind of thin bladed knife. You know, you can keep the wings if you want, but I just prefer, because there's so much bone and tendon and stuff, to throw those in the stock. So there's a little spot here, and if you start cutting around, and you're basically going to cut a circle around that, and then you'll find a tendon that comes off. So you've got a circle around your wing, boom, one wing off. So same thing on the other side. Don't know how well this is being caught, but I'm going to do this full circle right around that joint again. And then my blade should just be able to find where that joint is, and that. And so I'll do these chicken wings real quick. I piece these into 3, and you just want to basically cut down through where the joints are. And then I put a couple slashes through the meat, so, and toss it into the pot. Same thing here. Sometimes I'll break that in half. And then with the winglet, I just kind of open those up, so more surface area, and then that goes in the pot. So same thing on the other one. You just want to cut down on that joint, a couple slashes through the skin, into the pot. Same thing here. There we go. Okay, so main part of the chicken, there's quite a bit of fat that comes and sits on that end, kind of the rear piece where those come off. Just trim that off. So now I've got the breast, and I want to make a slice along the skin right down the middle of the breastbone, and you can feel there's a big kind of the sternum there, and you just want to expose that open. Get all the skin out of the way, and then you're just going to choose one side and start to slide down right next to the breastbone. And then continue to just kind of cut away at that. And up front, you're going to hit the wishbone at some point. Actually, I don't know if this one has it. And then these breasts are going to come off just like that, and back up through kind of where the wing joint, close to where the wing joint is. And then I'm going to pull, I probably should have done this to start, but I'm just going to pull this skin off. And I haven't been like chopping the skin up. So I'll just slice that skin off. There's a little bit of connective tissue there to get it. Skin goes in the pot. Can trim the fat. And then I usually pull this tender off. So now you've got a tender and a breast. Good to go. So same thing goes on the other side. just cut down that backbone. And continue to make slices away from it. See, on this side we've got more. I need to just scrape down that wishbone, try to get as much chicken attached to the breast. Same on this side. And then at some point you can go in and just separate that. That in there. Tender off. Boom. Skin off the breast. Done. So I've got our neck here. I'm just going to use a bit heavier. Well, let's see. I want to just make a few cuts into here, which exposes the neck bone. That's good. In we go. So this is probably the toughest piece here because it's the biggest bones. What I try to do with this is I cut right there in between and then just pull that back. And then I can usually find a place where I can cut through, and now I get two pieces. I usually try to trim this skin off. So that's separate. And then sometimes, because you can see there's kind of like, you know, still a lot of blood and things close to the close to where the spine is and the rib bones and stuff in the inner cavity. Sometimes I will just blanch this with some boiling water, just pour boiling water over it and leave it, and that makes there be less kind of residue and impurities when you're making the stock. So today I won't do that. So last thing is deboning this guy. So you don't have to necessarily debone these if you don't want to. You can just leave them whole and use them as they are. But if you want to debone them, let's go. I'm not going to take the skin off first. So we're going to slice down right along the thigh bone here. And just use the tip of your knife to kind of get down in. And so I want to get down where I can just slide my knife through, and then I'm going to pull that out. So now that releases that section. I'm going to basically do a similar slice going down the leg. Slice down around the bone. Same thing again, as I want to be able to get my knife through. And here, I cut that piece off the leg. Now I can basically just start cutting down and disconnecting all these things from that joint. So I basically want to get to where I can grab both sides, and then again just cutting around. There's quite a bit of connective tissue around the joint. So you can see there, and then that goes in the pot. And then I will, I usually take the skin off, I think, before, maybe not. But then I'll get the skin off, and you just want to kind of pull that away, pull that parts away. And little slices in the connective tissue there to free that up. And any excess skin and fat, just a few pieces, but basically what I come up with is a meat. It's a thigh drumstick combo with no bones. So I won't video the other one, but it's the exact same process. Now It's still on. So now I will add to this, I will add 4 liters of water, and then basically the setting for it is just there's a a soup broth setting. And I think if I run that, I want to say it's 35 or 45 minutes, but I run it, let me just press it and see what happens. Yeah, it's 45 minutes, but you can adjust it. So I've been adjusting it up to 55, and then as soon as you've got your water in there, oh, cancel. When you get your water there, your lid on, then it'll just bring up the pressure, cook, and be done. And then it'll release pressure naturally. And then you just strain the whole thing and you've got your chicken stock. So there you go. There's the quick and easy way for making stocks. So you can do that with any type of bones, but chicken's obviously kind of the easiest to source, and is probably the most versatile as well. All right, that is it. Maybe I can do another video when we come to the finished product, and I'll just show you how that looks. So, all right. I just remembered a couple things to add here that I'll add on this, and piece the videos together. But I do not put any salt in at this time. If you want to put a little bit of sea salt or just a pinch of it, it's okay, because that probably helps in making the stock. But I don't use any salt because I like to reduce the stock down to how I need it. And if you're making stocks or sauces, and it reduces down heavily, then that salt reduces down and you might have too much salt. So I can leave my stocks unsalted at this point. The other thing that I didn't mention was use cold water when you pour it over, and then let that come up slowly. And that will help your stock not be too cloudy because of the impurities getting emulsified into the stock itself. Hey Beans, I am back here with, it's taken a while because I haven't been paying attention to this, but I'm back with the Instant Pot. Now, the Instant Pot took a lot longer to come up to pressure than I thought, so it took a little bit longer, but flip the camera around and we'll take a look here. So, so it's actually been sitting in and depressurizing for an hour and 8 minutes here, but I was doing other stuff. So you can see, if you look at the top, this little thing is down, which is the pressure sensor, and if I move this, there's no venting to be had. So we can undo this now. It's in keep warm mode, and we will just take a gander in there. So if we look down, we've got a nice clear broth that gets created. One of the things that I was mentioning before is I will tend to overboil it if it's on the stove, and that leads to a cloudy broth, which the Asians like, but the French don't like. So all I'm going to do now is strain this, and then I'm going to put it into, we've been using those glass yogurt jars here, but at home I would use mason jars, and just throw that in the fridge afterwards in kind of single-sized portions. And yeah, there we go. That is our chicken stock tutorial / recipe, and we'll move on to what we can do with that in a couple of the other videos. See ya.